had some really good chats, and here we go. GM Farcaster. It is Thursday, January 25th. We've had a weird week, so I have to keep checking on what day it is. And you're here for 21 minutes of Farcaster news to start your day or end your day if you're on the other side of the world. And today we have a special guest host, Jonny Mac here. I am so excited. Non-linear. We'll be chatting about Fabric and Hypersub and FarCon, but he's also going to be here as my co-host. Adrienne was trying to get here. She's on vacation, and she was going to try and, grab some Wi-Fi from the jungle, and it did not quite work out. So Jonny is going to be the full-on co-host today. So welcome.
Let's do it.
Welcome to GM Farcaster. So you're always on there. You know what's going on, so this will be easy. So I'm going to start with new feature for Warpcast DCs. Here it is, images. Finally, we do have images now in direct cast and group cast, so that's exciting. If you have not updated your app, so update your app, restart your app if you're not seeing it yet, because I had to do that a couple times to make sure to actually get it working. And I believe it's now on web as well. So that's exciting. Also, gift warps for a cast. I am super excited about this, and I've been asking for this, so this is exciting. Tap into it, not exactly like this, but I wanted to be able to give 10 just for any reason. So this is a perfect way to do it. Tap into a cast, tap the warps button to send 10 warps to the author of the cast. We have an extra click right now to train people prevent misclicks, but we'll be making it easier to do right from the feed for power users soon. Other notes, it's a fixed 10 warps, not customizable. Warps are private and personal, so no public displays right now. We may offer it in the future. If you're gifted warps for a cast, you'll have context and the ability to message in your warps message feed. So what did you think about this? I love this. What did you think, Jonny?
I'm a huge fan. I've been saying, my mantra to them has been make it easy to make money on Warpcast.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to see them experimenting with this.
Yeah, I love this. I love gifting things in general. So anytime I'm like, yay, I want to give things easier.
I also think it's like a powerful tool too for enforcing the culture that you want to build. Like Ted, experimented with this, and she's like, okay, ask interesting questions, be honest, be truth seeking, and I'll send you warps for engaging. And she did, and I think that's cool. And it's like, I'm gonna do a similar experiment in the memes channel, which is love it. Giving warps to people who post bangers, and it's like it's a signal, hey, that this is what works.
Yeah.
So I think.
So what's a banger meme to you? I think this is some.
It's a good question. Yeah, I think about this.
What makes a banger meme? Is it a certain number of likes? Is it a certain number of recasts, or is it not that quantifiable? Is it it when you see it?
It's a really good question. I actually think about this a lot, and I think it. So, so you have to think about the quality, separate from the outcome. So I think the outcome, obviously, of a banger would be it gets a lot of engagement. It gets a lot of likes and recasts and replies and now warps. So it's weird because sometimes what I think is going to do really well, I'm like, oh, this is such a banger. It goes nowhere. No one cares. It's no one thinks it's funny. And then other things that I think are kind of not that funny or not that good will do really well. So it's hard to say. I think to me, the qualities of a banger is that their memes are fundamentally timely. They're topical. They capture a feeling that everyone kind of has, but maybe hasn't quite yet articulated. And they do it in a funny way. They do it visually. And so that when people see it, they're like, yes, that's what I was thinking, or that's what I was feeling. And this meme expresses that, and it does so in this humorous way. Those are the qualities of a really good meme.
I agree.
And sometimes you're just off. You're either too early to something, or you're too late to something, or it's the humor isn't quite there. I think internet humor too is like, can be really layered, like,
You can really dive back to things. And, I mean, I think there's also crypto memes. So I don't know how many times I've replied to a cast that was like one parenthesis what, because and if you're not in this space, you won't even know what that means. And I think within Farcaster, it goes even deeper, like where we have these, mole and kiwi and all these
yeah,
things that like, so you can do these callbacks too to things, and it can get really
yeah.
fun that
There's like
way.
inside jokes,
Yeah.
like in a lot of ways. I think that's kind of like memes are that too. It's like
Yeah.
an inside joke that gets really big that everyone can kind of reference.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a great explanation. I think that's a great
yeah,
description. The inside joke, and just depending on how big the inside is, right? Sometimes
yeah,
it's a tiny group, and then sometimes it's a much larger cultural moment. And I think that's
yeah.
a really good way to put it. Yeah.
Like the Barbie, the Barbenheimer kind
Yeah.
of moment was like, that was an
Huge.
inside joke that basically the entire Western world was a part of, and
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
like,
That's a very
yeah,
big inside joke, but
the big
still,
joke.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I love that. A few other things that dropped yesterday. Um, New feature for Warpcast group DCs, invite via link. So that's great. Much easier to invite people to an existing group chat on another app. No more manual searching and inviting flow. Also easier to share a link to a new group in a cast or channel description. So that's awesome. And then he was testing something. So Dan was testing something last night, and I ended up as part of that test. And so he'd say, testing, can you join this? And you'd click on the link and you could either join or not. There were two I could join. There was one I couldn't. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but here's the results. And then found out that it was token gating group chats based on some existing tokens that already exist in the Farcaster ecosystem. So that should be coming soon. So that was some tests last night. So I don't know how the testing went, but that's kind of exciting, and another feature that I think would be really helpful to things like DAOs and various groups that have tokens. So that's coming soon as well. Speaking of group chats, were you in the Hunger Games at all, or any of the like group chat experiments that were happening?
I missed that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think you would have loved that. So it's unfortunate.
I know. I wanted to. I saw Cassie's, you know, casts about it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I wish I would have like caught that, but I missed it. And then by the time that it was happening, I feel like I kind of like was, behind the ball on it. So
It was really fun. I loved the experiment, and I loved what she did, and it was a really fun way to meet new people as well, like, or to
mm.
interact with people you don't interact with much. Maybe you know
What
them, but
was it?
so
Well, how did it?
you just voted out half the people in each round, like each 24 hours, half were eliminated. It started at 64, and then
I,
half, and then half, and then half. But it was, strategy and gameplay and alliances, and it was very like Survivor in a
okay.
group chat.
But
Survivor in a group chat. It was fun.
like could you like make your case for why you should
You
stay?
could, or you
Okay.
could. My strategy was vote early and then don't say anything and hope they forget
Yeah.
I'm there.
Right.
that
Right.
got me to I got to third place with that strategy. It worked
Right.
well. So there was a lot of different approaches, and it was really fun to see it play out. So I'm kind of, it's kind of fun to see different experiments, and I love that the Farcaster community really dives into experiments, and that makes it a lot of fun. A
Yeah.
couple more quick things before we switch all the way over to just chatting with you about all the things you're doing. Um, AMA first, join us for our very first technical AMA on Farcaster with co-founder Dan Finlay, head of product and developer community lead on Friday, January 26th at 1 p.m. This is with MetaMask. So MetaMask is going to do an AMA where they don't get spammed. So that'll be fun. And then Purple has a retro funding round starting on January 31st. So if you have been contributing to the Farcaster ecosystem and want to jump in here, that is coming soon. So get those props ready. Okay, so I want to switch gears and let's talk about. So one of the reasons I wanted, to bring you here today was to chat about Fabric, chat about Hypersub, and also, give you an opportunity to sell it to
Yeah.
us, because we're actually thinking about how we're going to, fund this experiment we're doing. And we did a trial run with some NFTs on Zora, and we're like, okay, we might need to try something different and see what works best. So, but first, let's talk about, what is Fabric and what is
Yeah.
Hypersub. Let's dive
Awesome. Well,
in.
I think we're still trying to figure out what Fabric is.
Okay. In your
uh,
best and the best possible words, how would you
yeah.
describe it? If it was a
Uh,
meme, what would it be?
yeah. No, I think, so very
By the
like,
way, if you're not in the Unlonely chat, you might want to. What's being spammed right now is Return of the Mac. I'm
I
just letting
saw
you know.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making
Saw
sure
it.
you were catching. Thanks to
So
Oofy.
concretely, I'd say, Fabric is a small team of engineers, designers, and we just hired Alexander Burkow from OpenSea as our VP of Business Development, and
Awesome.
so like we've built a couple products. I think we're super excited and passionate about this idea of shared value, of programmable money, like kind of using crypto primitives and finding novel use cases for the technology. So that's what drives us. And I think, with crowdfunding, what we saw kind of when we started building it was, all right, people want a way to pool money, achieve shared goals, and share in the upside that comes from that. And the tools that are available to do that currently are just really hard to use. Like you have to set up token distributions, and it's complicated. And so we're like, how can you achieve that outcome in the simplest possible way, both at the protocol level and at the application level? And so that was the first thing that we built. We call it crowd financing. There's a very user-friendly client that we built. This is what's being used for FarCon pre-commits.
It was, by the
And
way, the site is beautiful. I have to say,
thank
whoever
you.
the design was, that your design or
That was me. Yeah.
awesome. It looked
Yeah.
great, and it was just a nice flow, but I loved
Yeah.
the look and feel of it. So just, shout out to the
Thank you.
aesthetics as well. Loved
Appreciate
it.
it. Yeah.
And I loved
So
seeing last year there was some people crowdfunding to go to FarCon via
yeah,
Fabric, which was very
that's
cool.
right. Chris
Yeah.
co-created that. And then Cameron actually, like was trying to do an NFT drop, and struggled with that. And then we did the campaign for the first FarCon, and that raised 5.5 ETH. So,
Yeah,
that
was great.
was a big help. So, yeah. So, we built that, we started talking to people about it, and, like bigger creators. And our thesis was like, look, like creators who have a demonstrated history of shipping, delivering value, people with reputation, like they do have access to capital, whether you're a fashion designer, whether you're a musician, whatever you're doing, like, there's record labels, there's fashion houses, there's movie studios, like in the startup world, there's venture capitalists, but oftentimes like the capital is on unfavorable terms for the creative. And so we're like, look, if you have a really big audience, why not just raise capital from that audience? And then you can return that capital to them, at a higher rate than what they would typically have access to. So kind of everybody wins. Like, the fan is like basically getting, they're supporting the creators that they care about. They're getting and they're getting a return profile that's greater than what their checking account or savings account would be giving them, and then the creator is getting capital on more favorable terms. So we're like, okay, that's a great idea. Very clear value proposition. We talked to a bunch of people, creators with audiences in the hundreds of thousands or bigger, and they were all like, love it, super cool, not gonna do it.
What's the pushback? What's the hold up? What do you think is holding
You're
it back?
just straight up violating the Howey test. Like you are issuing a security, like you are breaking the law if you do that. And so
The return thing, I was thinking, yeah, the
yeah,
return piece is where you kind of, when you start to create dividends, if you will,
Yeah.
you start
Which is
you start to go directly into Howie
yeah.
territory.
Which is effectively like what crowd financing is. Like you can
Right.
deploy a crowdfunding campaign, you raise money, but then what's actually happening under the hood is that, you know, when you contribute, you're simultaneously minting an ERC20 token, and that token is effectively a share in an on-chain cap table, so that if the person who raised the funds puts money back in, then everyone can withdraw on a pro rata basis. And so this was the kind of like pool capital
Great.
and then
Fantastic.
share upside.
Share. Yeah.
And so
It's a great concept. And you know, Gary is the reason we can't
yeah.
have nice things.
Yeah. So that was we had initially like talked to a bunch of lawyers, and everyone was like, you can't do this, blah, 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 blah. And we were like, fuck it. We're gonna just make it in this very like internet native way. We're gonna be agnostic to kind of the like geographic jurisdictions, you know, like this is just a piece of infrastructure that should exist on the internet. And yeah, so we launched it, you know, there was some usage, but we're like, this is not gonna, there's no business here. There's not, this is, you know, like we didn't want to take fees because we're worried about breaking the law. So we're like, it's just free. And so our view on it is like, it's sick. We love it. We've got a soft spot in our heart for this and this use case. But yeah, I think I think of it now as just like a piece of public infrastructure. Like it's a public good. And so when actually after the last FarCon, we were like, well, now what do we do? You know? And we started thinking about like, well, what are people doing on chain? They're minting NFTs. Okay, well, but then what happens? Well, then nothing happens. They just kind of sit there. And so we're like, how could you imbue these with more value? Like, what could you do with the 721 standard to make it more useful? And so one of the things like we started looking at and how people were using NFTs is as like memberships and as subscriptions, but that's kind of fundamentally broken because oftentimes the value exchange is something discrete for something continuous. And what I mean is that a buyer of the NFT, that's a discrete purchase. Like if I buy like, you know, a GM Farcaster NFT, like I'm giving you some money. I'm giving you money once. And if you're offering like access to a group chat or to, you know, like extras, like if it's like, oh, or like
airdrops,
you know,
we do
IRL
airdrops
events, or yeah,
like
you can have a whole suite of perks that you offer. It's like, well, that's going to require continuous effort on your part, but so it's a great deal for me and it's not a great deal for you. And I think this is why like a lot of DAOs ended up just kind of running out of steam, is because they just don't really have good economic tools. They don't really have good mechanisms by which to ensure they can like sustain themselves as they're creating value on and on.
Value for the existing holders, for sure.
Exactly. And so we're like, okay,
that's
well,
definitely a challenge for a lot of DAOs, including the ones that I'm very active in at the moment. And we're trying to figure those things out.
So then what happens is it favors a strategy of scale. You're like, well, we need new members because we need money. But then now you end up, that creates new problems because now you have like scale issues. So we're like, all right, how can you imbue the NFT with more value? And so we're like, well, what if you made it a subscription? What if you made it a membership? And so and this is not a new idea. There were like 3 or 4 previous EIPs that had basically crashed and burned that were straight up subscription NFTs. And so we looked at those and we kind of put our own spin on it, which was, you know, when you deploy an NFT, it asks you, what is the price per token? And what we added this kind of temporal dimension where there's a third input on the contract, which is what is the price per token over time? The base unit of time in the contract is seconds. So what's literally happening when you purchase, say, an NFT for $10 per month is what you're really doing is you're purchasing 1 month's worth of seconds. Those seconds then get populated in the balance of field, which is what every system uses for token gating. So if you go to like a token gated Discord or a token gated bonfire site or a token gated paragraph page or
Warpcast
exactly a token
chat.
what they're checking is balance of. Is your balance of greater than 0? And if it is, that means you have the token. And if it isn't, it means you don't. And so rather that being a static value, it's a dynamic value. So you buy 1 month's worth of seconds, and then as time passes, that balance is decremented by 1 every single second, so that at the end of the month, your balance will equal 0.
Interesting.
So the way that I think of this is a little bit like
that's a really different. Has anyone had an approach like that with an NFT?
No.
That's really interesting. That
was like the big idea. That's the modification. So it's a standard 721 NFT contract with a timer, effectively.
That's interesting.
And what this creates is a situation where, you know, you have gated access based on this credential. That credential is on chain, and the timer is on chain. And so any system can basically gate access. And as soon as your timer runs out, you got to put more money in if you want to maintain that access. So the way it works today is you have to mint time, and you can mint as much time as you want. We're going to ship monthly recurring credit card payments in Q1.
That's cool.
So you can put in your credit card number, and then it'll just bill monthly, and your balance will be topped up.
Very traditional kind of subscription approach as well. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's like subscribe with a credit card, like pay with a credit card, subscribe on chain is kind of the like marketing snippet. Yeah, and then there's a couple.
So you would still, the credit card would be the payment, but you'd still, like, essentially it's crediting your wallet with the time, if you will.
So we have a function in the contract called mint for, and so basically what it means is that any account can mint time for any other account. So we're going to have a programmable EOA wherein we charge the credit card in fiat, and then we mint time with the programmable EOA on behalf of that end user.
Because I was trying to figure out like how you do the recurring charge. You know, it makes sense when you're doing like I'm signing up for 3 months and I'm paying, you know, 0.3 ETH, right? Or whatever it is, right up front for the 3 months. So I was trying to figure out like, but how can you do it? And that makes a lot of sense. Like that's the only way really to make that work. Because we don't we don't really have a credit, you know, a debit card or credit card at a wallet. You know, it's kind of tricky. So
the other way, there's a couple other people sort of doing this, and they use allowances, which I think are really powerful, and they're useful, I think, in more of like a business context. But I think for consumers, like I'm very bearish on allowances. Like I think they're kind of inherently insecure. I think they're very fragile. Like it's just a weird concept too. Like you're essentially asking a user to approve an amount of time.
Right.
It's kind of like a hold on a credit card, but not really. It's weird. It's a weird concept. So our approach was to just be like, you just pay for the time you want.
Yeah, combine what works in Web 2 with Web 3 at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's a really interesting approach.
Yeah, I think so too. So we built that. We added a couple other pieces for like sharing upside via rewards. So the earlier you subscribe and the longer period of time you subscribe for, you earn rewards, which are effectively like revenue share, if the creator enabled that. So for example, if you guys did one for GM Farcaster and you say, we're going to share 10% of our subscription revenue with subscribers, what actually happens is that 10% goes into an on-chain pool. And then the earlier you subscribe and the longer period of time you subscribe for, the more shares in that on-chain pool you have.
Cool.
So we built it, we audited it, we got it deployed, we deployed it. And then of course, this is like the sort of dilemma of all crypto companies now, which is like, congratulations, you built a protocol. Like now you need to build a client. You need to actually show people how it
how to use
works,
it. Yeah.
how to use
And
it. Yeah.
actually, and get some people actually using it
And
too.
then you need to go and get actual usage. So like that's what Hypersub is. So Hypersub is just it's like a user-friendly client for creating, discovering, and subscribing to subscription NFTs. And we're in the process now of trying to, find creators, find podcasters, for people to use it.
So I wanted to show and talk about the Degen one that just went with Antimo.
Yeah.
The first
Like our
NFT from
fastest
the
growing.
Degen. Yeah, I'm showing it right now. The first NFT from the Degen sub is a thank you to the 26 people who minted the first 24 hours. With some posters. And this is the Hypersub page for that, which is pretty cool. Gives you all the information about this particular subscription with Antimo. And this one has like a Degen reward or something. Is that correct? Am I correct in that? This is a little,
Yeah.
this has like a whole like $ Degen. And let me say this because I keep forgetting. Cryptocurrencies are very risky. Please do your own research. Not financial advice, and we don't endorse anything. Okay, now moving on. Look, I really need to start doing that disclaimer before Gary comes to get me. So how does that work? Where you can you tap into any ERC20? Can you tap into any kind of reward give back? And is that limited at all depending on geography? I guess is my other question.
So you can denominate subscriptions in any token you want. So ETH, OP, base ETH, or any ERC20. So Degen, USDC, DAI, whatever. And then as far as the rewards go, someone asked, like, how do rewards not violate the Howey test?
Right.
And
that's why I said, is it dependent on your location?
Yeah. And the Howey test, like, and again, this is not financial advice. I am not a lawyer, like meow, 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 this is our perspective. The upside comes from it's rev share. The upside, it's not coming on the effort of others. It's based on other subscribers. So it's kind of like it's not unlike a meme coin wherein I hold the token, you hold the token, other people hold the token, us all acting like in concert independently in our own self-interest is actually the emergent property of that is that the value of the token goes up. So for example, like I can launch a subscription and I can say, I'm going to share 20% of the subscription revenue. But if nobody else subscribes, there's no rewards, So what is causing the upside is other people subscribing. And then the creator is saying, look, I'm going to allocate a portion of those subscription purchases to the subscribers themselves. So it functionally acts as like a discount, which actually someone said this is,
yeah, that's what it seemed like. Almost like you could or maybe it equals like additional time. Or
well,
something.
it depends.
I think there's some ways to
if you
arrange it,
Yeah, if you put the funds back into a subscription, it can. But like I think that guy Gray on Farcaster was like, oh, I just like Antimo set the subscriber rewards to 50%. So you subscribe for 10,000 Degen a week, 5,000 Degen of that purchase just goes straight into a pool. And he was like, oh, like I basically got in rewards a third of what I put in. So it's like it acts as this discount. Now that's true until if the more subscribers that collection will get, it's gonna switch from being a discount to actually you can make money.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it depends. It depends a lot on the growth of the collection.
I think you could also, and I mean, this would be, you could look at it almost like loyalty points too. So I think we could look at
100%.
rewards similar to any kind of loyalty program. It's just that the reward lives on chain. So I think
Yeah,
there's an argument to be made there that this is not that different from getting, you know,
it's
a
it's
benefit or a perk from a company that you are loyal to. So I don't know. We'll have to
that's
think
true.
that through,
That's
but I think that's possible
Yeah,
as an argument.
it's similar. It's very
Hmm.
similar. It's funny, like I everyone in crypto has been like talking about points and rewards and stuff, and then
Yeah.
I chuckled to myself because I get like a credit card statement in the mail from like whatever Visa or Bank of
Yeah.
America, and they're like, you earn this many points, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, what's old is new again, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Exactly. Or, okay, so cash back. Discover Card. They were doing that.
Exactly.
They were the first ones to do that. It's cash back on Discover Card. How is that? Does that violate the Howey test?
Yeah,
Nope. Apparently not, because they've been doing it for, since what, the 80s.
right.
So it's not like anything, there is that as well. And there's a number of companies that do that. So I think it's just, I think sometimes we get a lot of pushback on things because they're new and because we don't have
Agreed.
regulatory clarity. But to me, I feel like this one will find its way eventually. But I think it's a really creative approach to how do you support creators who are, starting, especially when they're starting something new. It's hard to figure out how to approach and make it sustainable. So I think there's really something special to this approach for sure. At least
Yep,
for the creators who are creating things on chain. That I think
that's
is
right.
the key.
That
Uh,
and then the other piece is that like they can still make the same value proposition of a token without issuing a token,
right.
which is I'm going to share in the upside of this project, and to me that's like a materially like differentiate. It's a material differentiator of crypto. Like
Hmm.
it's and what I mean is that it's like that is something that crypto can do that other things can't do.
Hmm.
It's like this programmatic value transfer where you can say, look, I'm going to take some portion of my funds and I'm going to give them back to my early supporters, for the people who are with me early and who made commitment to be with me for a long time. Like, I'm going to cut you in on my upside. You can't really do that
Right.
with fiat payments. Like, the programmability that
Yeah.
that you have is just in crypto, it just isn't there in fiat. So to me, that's like, this is
See,
what we're
you know
trying
what
to
you're
we're
touching
trying
on
to find.
too? Did you see, I think it was Larry Fink talking about the tokenization after the Bitcoin ETF. He was making the rounds and he was on, I think it was CNBC, and he was talking about this is just the first step to tokenizing everything. And that to me was like, wow, that's a
Yeah,
huge statement from him, from BlackRock. That's like a huge statement. And that's also, you've seen that evolution, right? To that, exactly what you're saying, that this provides something programmable, something different, a much easier approach. There's obviously learning curves, but once we make this more consumer friendly, there's a lot of problems it solves that I think aren't obvious at the start, on the
agreed.
surface. So that's
Agreed.
great. Hmm.
I think the challenge for consumer crypto companies today is, can we remain solvent long enough to see this adoption curve start to go up and to the right?
Yeah.
Like where are we in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, of crypto? If you're to
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
analogize the
Yeah.
early days of the internet, like, and I mean,
I
I
always talk about Farcaster being Google dorm room right now. Like,
yeah,
to
I
me, I
agree.
feel like all the people who are building in this, that's the moment we're in. And so I'm thinking we're like early to mid 90s,
Yeah,
of Web 2, you know what I mean? Like where things were just developing and trying out, and some things are going to be Netscape and some things are going to be Chrome, and it's going to take a
yeah,
while to figure out what those are. It's going to be, we're going to have a lot of things that, um, don't stand the test of time, I guess. But we're
yeah.
still we're still early. Yeah.
This is kind of why this is like a big topic, something I think
I
about a
know.
lot.
I know. And we're going, I said this
Are
in
we
the
already
beginning
over
too.
time?
We're gonna go long. Just hang in. But I don't want to cut the conversation because it's
Yeah.
I think important and interesting. And we still haven't even touched on FarCon. So
Well,
yeah,
we already talked it
we
before
gotta do a
this. We
part
already
two.
talked about doing part two. So I'm happy to come back. But yeah, I mean, it's something I think about like every day. all the time, which is like, how can we differentiate as a category, as an industry? How does crypto differentiate? And so I have like, this is like a kind of a hotly debated topic, I think, amongst founders, which is, you have people that say, the best way to build on chain is to actually not build on chain, like build a Web2 app, iterate quickly, don't fuck with making contracts or auditing or anything like that. And then once you find product market fit, then you can, build, you can like whatever, put pieces of that on chain. We're obviously oriented in pretty much the exact opposite direction. And I think our view, like for me, I just go back to, basic business fundamentals, which is like, you cannot compete with an incumbent on the same terms as the incumbent. Like you have to do something different. Like the reason why David beats Goliath is because he doesn't try to fight Goliath's game. He plays a different game. You have to compete on a different dimension. And to me, like if you're building a product and you try to compete with, name your Web2 company, like you have to be doing something fundamentally different than them in order to even have a chance at beating them. If you try to compete head to head, you're going to just get crushed. And to me, like the best chance that anyone building in crypto has is to use crypto, is to use like the primitives that are available to us around composability, interoperability, identity, programmable value, like all this stuff. Like these are like really rich raw materials that we should be leveraging to find a competitive edge. So
totally agree. And
little bit of a rant.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the way we're building this is we went on chain first. So we're using Unlonely because it's on base. Instead of, we could be broadcasting this live on Twitch or Twitter or wherever, a million other places. And then we always drop it first on Zora because and that wasn't even possible until August. Until we had the L2s, this would not have made sense. So until we had that ability, and Zora had, raised their the memory size that we could even put, like we needed all those things to happen. But as soon as that happened, it's like it makes a lot of sense for us to go on chain first, and then we can tap into the people who mint our podcast. Like we have, we can reward them. We can't do that with people who are, subscribing on YouTube. We don't know who they are. So it's like it's a whole different level of being able to connect with your audience that I think a lot of creators just don't quite get yet, but they will. And I think that's where Hypersub will take off, but they don't quite get it yet. They don't get how you can, again, we can also token gate different chats if we wanted to. We don't right now, but we could. But also having a channel on Farcaster has been one of the biggest things that have helped us. And I didn't realize that was going to be the case until we did it. And then I'm like, wow, this makes a huge difference. Because we're still casting, but it makes a very different, place where you can collect your community and say, hey, these are people who are interested in what you're doing. And now we can talk to them directly. And it's not like there's no barrier. There's no barrier there, which is fantastic. So thinking like, the 1,000 true fans sort of theory, this takes it and really flips it on its head and makes it so much more true, if you will. Like you can really get there. And I think what you're doing is helping with that for sure. Absolutely. And yes, you're going, you got some go off King in the chat.
King.
We liked your rant. Your rant was appreciated and loved very much so. There was a couple other things that a couple casts that I wanted to share of yours really quick that you posted recently. That I wanted to ask you about. Thinking about adding drops to Hypersub, paste links to physical products and/or the contract addresses to the NFTs you create, and notify subscribers to redeem. And I wanted to just ask about that. Like what, that's really interesting. I think the physical to digital piece where, again, L2s and all those, in Coinbase Commerce and all these different things is going to make all of that easier to do. So it's to me like something that I definitely, love those kind of integrations. So what's is that available? Is it coming? And what's your like thinking around that?
Sorry, I just had to boost Borrow Duchess cast. Uh, uh,
Are you in the meme channel?
no. So
Are you
I
looking
told
at
him I would do
memes?
it like an hour ago. Sorry. So yeah, so the drops thing, it's a really big feature, and that's why I'm like asking for feedback, because I'm honestly not sure if we should build it. It would be quite a big effort.
Interesting. Okay.
And so, but it's this idea that like the use case. So initially when we launched, people were like, what can I use Hypersub for? And we just had the worst answer, which is whatever you want, which is like horrible. So then you're like, I was like, well,
this is why
okay,
you're hiring a biz dev.
yeah.
The
So
person to handle that part.
let me be more specific, which is, and so what I proposed is I was like, okay, this offer three things. The first thing is a subscriber edition. We're calling it a subscriber edition. It's not limited edition and it's not an open edition. It's an edition with a size that is commensurate with your subscriber base on a month-to-month basis. So do that once a month. Second thing is offer early access and discounts on priced mints. So if you've got a price mint that's coming up, this like real world galleries do this all the time. They'll have the high roller collectors come in and they can like buy the pieces before the show. So do something similar. If you have a generative collection or something like that, people can come in and buy it early. And then the third thing is do a monthly raffle. So for a 1 of 1. And so that worked pretty well. People were like, okay, that's cool. That makes sense. I'll do that. And then, for the consumer, they're like, okay, I like this artist. They're publishing work frequently. Like if I subscribe, it means I don't have to chase down mints. I don't miss mints. I just get stuff airdropped to me. So that's working pretty well. But then what I noticed Max Jackson started doing is he'd be like, oh, I'm just going to do an edition of 15 and it's only subscribers can get it. But he had like 40 subscribers or whatever. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like he's making it limited amongst a limited group to kind of gauge what is the interest on this particular work, how engaged are my subscribers. So I thought that was fascinating. We've also had a number of folks, I've been talking to Derek about doing a coffee subscription.
Yep.
And a couple other people about doing, like Searsu did a gift box. And so like,
is there a way you could use Shopify's integration?
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
That's what,
because that's what I keep thinking about too is, and we have this plan where eventually these will be available. But we haven't quite got there yet, so in thinking about Shopify and tying the NFT token and either
that's how it would work.
And redeem and that kind of thing with the token.
Yeah.
So it could be like that, like only your subscribers can redeem and get this physical product.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Another interesting use case, which I think would be adjacent to GM Farcaster, is this kind of like NPR, KEXP, like public radio supporter, where you're like, you get some status, you get maybe like a coffee mug, you get an NFT, but like, it's really more about, hey, I'm just expressing my support. I like what they're doing.
Like essentially you wear the badge, the pin, if you will. Yeah.
And then you basically, like, one of the things you can do with a Hypersub contract is you can specify the billing period. So the billing period, instead of it being monthly, would just be annually. So you'd be like, you have a $25 one, a $50 one, a $100 one. They each have a different set of perks.
Do an annual appeal. Like
there
NPR
you go.
Annual appeal. Oh God, exactly. I see this coming. I see us doing this very soon. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the drops
We're gonna do a 24-hour telethon.
Do it.
Oh God, Adrienne's gonna be like, I was on vacation and Prof and Jonny decided we're doing a 24-hour telethon. Nobody tell her. Don't tell her. Let's wait and see if she watches the show.
Yeah. So the idea with the drops was basically to be like, okay, where can I see the value of becoming a subscriber? There's this important question: what's in it for me? And I think every offering has to answer that. And so the drop kind of tab is this idea where prospective subscribers could go and be like, what do I get? What has this person delivered in the past? And then existing subscribers that's kind of the source of truth for the value of this particular subscription. So yeah, based on the interest so far, I'm thinking like we should do it. You know, it seems like people are kind of psyched on it. Yeah. And then the other cool thing,
anything that you can make it easier, like we can do that already, but we have to build out everything, right? We got to build out the Shopify site. We got to, you know, so it's not hard, but it takes time. So if somebody does it for me, I'm more likely to go, oh, we'll just go use them. So we don't have to do that part. If you make it easier for us, we're going to obviously want to support that because it'll just makes our lives easy. And I think always thinking about what's in it for the subscriber is really important. And we're always trying to think of like, okay, what else can we build value around and give different benefits. So love this. This has been a great conversation. And I hate to cut it off, but we're like, you know, we're at 40. We do 21 minutes. We're at 42. But I knew that was going to happen. So I was fully prepared for it. We had a few other things. We're going to drop them in the show notes. So a few other links, but there's one thing I do want to talk to you about really quick, and that is FarCon. Yesterday, Ted posted going through FarCon applications. First wave of approvals come out February 6th. And there's one overwhelming theme: friendship and community. The internet strangers to real friends pipeline is a phenomenon that is somewhat unique to Farcaster. We may grow out of it as the protocol scales, so cherish the opportunity now. And I loved that. And I just wanted to, you know, you're a part of the FarCon team. What are you excited about? Like what in the planning has gotten you like, so like, I cannot wait for whatever it is. Like what are you looking forward to with this? Let me ask it a different way. Why should somebody go to FarCon?
Yeah. I mean, it's an obvious and simple answer, which is just to see your internet friends in real life. Like it's a simple value proposition, but like it's kind of magical and it's surprising and it's delightful. And it's like, I mean, the first FarCon was like, there were like real bonds made. You know what I mean? Like it was.
Adrienne and I we started this.
Yeah.
And this is growing fast, and we did not like think this train was going to take off this way, but if we hadn't met at FarCon, this wouldn't have happened. So
there were like business deals done, there were new customers, there were new projects forged, there were new ideas. I mean, I remember everyone was saying to Dan, channels is going to be the thing. Like, so Jonny specifically avoided me at FarCon. And said that. Is that Dewhoopy? That's not true. That is so not true. I didn't even recognize him until the last minute. And then I was like, yo. So yeah, anyway, that's my answer. You know, it's the magic of seeing your internet friends in real life. It's powerful, it's fun, it's engaging. And also too, like Ted has put an enormous amount of thought in the programming.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of really fun, like, activities and interactions that kind of like.
You're going surfing? Are you going surfing?
Yes.
Are you Dawn Patrol surfing with Nonlinear?
Apparently.
Apparently. And then right after, you can go slide over to Noun's Coffee and come in for a live taping of GM Farcaster at 8:30. So there you go. Come right.
I had a little. Last time I was in LA, I had a little preview. I got to go to that coffee shop and see it. So I'm super excited for that.
I can't wait. Yeah. All right, I have a few other questions for you. These are the lightning round questions.
Okay.
Like 5. These are from these are Adrienne, some of her usual ones. So I wanted to tap into them. First online friend. Who was your first online friend? Like, where did you meet them? Do you remember?
Whoa.
This is a question she asks everybody, and I kind of love it.
Damn. Oh, my first online friend maybe was like Whitney Hess. She used to be a UX designer. She does like coaching stuff now, but I connected with her through the Event Apart series that Jeffrey Zeldman used to run. They have like a book apart, like a publishing. They do a bunch of stuff on like web design. So I was doing front end engineering.
Oh, cool.
That was probably like the first person who I like met online, and then we became like real friends, like in the real world.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. What's your favorite channel? I already know this answer, but we'll let you put it out there.
Yeah, it's got to be memes.
It's got to be memes. It's got to be memes.
even it's second even to my own company channel.
Like, I knew that you were going to say that,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Soccer or football? Big controversy.
Oh, well, you have to go with football,
I really
It's the
thought you were going to be on
global
soccer.
standard,
Okay.
I mean,
Kiwis.
there's a part of me that wants to be like, I'm American. I'm like a soccer.
I know you're just
but,
turning your back on
yeah.
USA. Kiwi skin, on or off when you eat it?
On.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last one. If you were a benevolent dictator for Warpcast for the day, what would you do?
Channel subscriptions.
Channel subscriptions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Built on the Hypersub.
Plus one.
Built on
Built
on
Hypersub and integrated
Hypersub.
in Hypersub. I would love that. That would be
I've been pitching them this for months, which
love
is use Warps to subscribe to a channel.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So thank you so much. Love that you were able to come on. Thank you all in the chat for hanging for our extra time today. We're rethinking our strategies here because we definitely love spending more time with guests. So we're going to do like a regular show that's just our 21 minutes, and when we have a guest, we're just going to assume that we're going to go long because we want to get the most of it.
I think I love that. We got a lot of
things we're going to play around with.
Yeah.
So we have people who want to be our correspondents. It's really been kind of fun. This week in particular has been extra fun. But we have people like, wanting to jump in as correspondents for all kinds of things. So it's kind of funny. So we're gonna play around and have a lot of fun with this. Awesome. I do have to shout out really quick our subscribers, our supporters, our cup of supporters, and that's Monkey Links, Type of, Ajutupan, Yes to Crypto, Wake, Lens Post, and Justin.ahn.eth, who is this week's CLP, and his project Quid.li, Quid.ly. Go check it out. We have a bunch more about that in our weekly recap from last week. And next week, we have something really fun with Farcaster and Artloo. So that'll be more info on that on Monday. So we'll be back on Monday. Thank you so much, Jonny. This has been awesome. Adrienne's going to be mad she missed it, but she can listen back. She can listen back. And we'll be reaching out to figure out some things with Hypersub. I think we're going to experiment with that in February. So more to come. Thanks, chat. We love you. And OnlyFans. No OnlyFans. But now OnlyFans is a whole other thing. That's coming. That only comes should ETH go to 0. That only gets activated. So anyway, thanks, everybody. And we will see you on Monday. Thank you again, Jonny. Bye-bye.
Cool. Everybody. Thank you. Bye.
See ya.